Hey Birchouse friends, welcome back. So this week's question was a question that we drew last week from our basket, and it comes from Angela Volo, who asks, "Hey Birchouse, what is the hardest weapon to create?" This is a really good question. I don't think that there are any weapons that are inherently harder to create than another. I think every historical item you make brings its own unique challenges. And so I guess I would say that if you're doing something very period accurate, something that you're trying to represent a piece from history, there is an extra layer of due diligence to it than, say, something that is historically inspired. So what I mean by that is, if you're making, say, a Viking axe, and you're trying to make it look like one that is in a museum, and you're going to try and make it look just like that axe, there is an extra layer of due diligence, like I said, to do it, the right dimensions, the right weight, using the right wood, versus if you, say, make a Viking axe that maybe you put your own carvings in, you're making it your own length and width, maybe you're putting your own artistic spin on it. And so it's not necessarily fantasy, but it's historically inspired. I think there's that added layer of depth to the work when you're doing something that you are trying to represent a historical piece. So I guess that makes that a little harder. But I think the true answer for me, what is the hardest weapon to create? It's any weapon or any item that I am struggling with at a given time. So making most axes, spears, slings, things of that nature, they're pretty straightforward affairs, but then occasionally you'll run into a piece that for one reason or another is giving you grief. Maybe there's a knot in the wood that you're trying to work around. Maybe you get your axe handle all the way to the bitter end and then it splits for one reason or another. There was a hidden flaw in the wood that you didn't catch and it splits, and now the entire thing is scrapped. So you're going right back to the drawing board with that axe head. You have to hammer out the handle, the shaft, make a new shaft, put it back together. Sometimes, you're shaving down the wood and you run into some worminess that wasn't apparent on the surface, and now that shaft is scrapped. There are just and then sometimes it's not even like a flaw in the wood or a flaw in the metal. Sometimes it's just, for whatever reason, you're struggling to create the piece you're wanting to create. Maybe there's something you have in your head and you're just not able to translate it into reality. Maybe you're just, for whatever reason, you're just struggling. You just can't seem to make things fit together. You can't get the shaft to socket into a halberd head, and you keep taking it down further and further, and then before you know it, you've taken it down too far, and now you have to go back to your drawing board. There's just 100 million little things that can go wrong, that generally don't. Most work is pretty straightforward, and I don't struggle too much. But then occasionally you run to that one piece that, for whatever reason, you struggle. You just can't seem to get together. And I think those are the hardest weapons to create. So, Angela, that was a great question. Thank you so much for asking. Let's draw a question for next week, because we did not get a comment question. And so this next week's question will be from Dustin Phillips. So we'll answer this question next week. If you ever have a question for Birchouse, comment below with "Hey Birchouse, ask," and we'll answer your question in a future video. In the meantime, we'll see you all next Wednesday.